speak on a subject that I've been tracking for quite a while. After I retired, I joined the board for the Crawford House. It's a veteran shelter in town, the only one of its kind in southern Colorado. Always a waiting list, max capacity. We bought more buildings, and yeah, the need is just incredible. But I'm going to give you the bigger picture first, and there's a lot of stats in here. Statement. This is pretty clear, but we're going to get into more of what this problem statement's about. These are estimates from the Veterans Administration, from Housing and Urban Development, from quite a number of different organizations and reporting sources. Newsmax used quite a bit in here as well. Yeah, 17% nationally. Of course, that spikes, depends on your region. And yeah, this is a 2016, between 40 and 50,000. But the at-risk population is what I'm concerned about. Okay, it's all about affordable housing. In my area alone, 2,500 units in terms of shortfall. And you realize if you're on a Section 8 voucher, I mean that's low income, that's poverty level, and you get what you pay for. You're going to be in a bad neighborhood because you're not paying much. Homelessness is defined in one of two categories. You have acute homelessness and you have chronic homelessness. So you aware of this? Mm-hmm. Okay, chronic homelessness. You're homeless over and over and over again. Acute homelessness. You don't have a home. You may be couch surfing. You may be living in your car. You may be on the verge of eviction. You may have had to move back with your parents. That's acute homelessness. Your name's not on the lease. Okay, so we're talking chronic homelessness. Female vets, and I've seen these numbers as high as 4 times more likely than males. And yes, I see them. I mean, moms, kids, single moms, living in their SUV. Okay? Demographics, 40% between the ages of 31 and 50. You can pretty much guess who that affects. Usually recently separated or been out for a while. Again, Vietnam always leads the list, almost half. But there's some in-betweeners in there. These are guys my generation, my campaign, Desert Storm and such. But of those, 53% overall disabled, mental illnesses, and this is a variety of things. I mean, you can guess them. You know, post-traumatic stress, depression, physiological disorders, yada yada. Right? A lot of substance abuse, 2 out of 3. General population lasts approximately 4 years. What do you think that is for veteran homelessness averages? 6 years or greater. It's a long time on the street. Next slide, Paul. Housing and Urban Development, funded by VA, will do point-in-time, PIT, surveys. We do them, you may have them in your areas as well. They'll send out volunteer teams, they'll deputize them, and just start shaking the bushes. See who's out there. Are you a veteran? You claim to be a veteran. You know, go along the riverbanks and all the campsites that are kind of off the grid. I don't know how effective they are in, you know, rural areas like Oregon. I mean, we talked about that earlier. Huge population. They own the woods. Okay, but in town is where you get these point-in-time surveys. In town. Okay, and they tend to break it down. So the top line, 2009, had 75,000 total vets. And then the next 2 lines, the middle line of that 75. 43 had some form of shelter. Again, acute homelessness falls into this as well. And then the bottom line, the unsheltered vets. The guys under the bridges, you know, in their own little camps. So HUD has been doing these annually. The latest one I could get from the national sources only went to 2012. And it goes from 75,000 to 62,000. Next slide. This is what I see in my area when we do our point-in-time surveys. Okay, about 150 in dire need. So these are the unsheltered veterans. And I belong to that committee, the coalition, under the VA Homelessness Continuum of Care, COC. 2/3, variety of shelters, some safe, some not so safe. Biggest problem is that third line. In the right sizing or the downsizing of the military, we put 185,000 Army guys out of work. In my area, that was about 500, 525, 530 a month. That's a lot in one community. You know, you look at the peace dividend that the Clinton administration enjoyed. It was attempted here. Why didn't it work? Here's why it didn't work. I was in Europe at the time, 300,000 U.S. service members in Europe. They cut it down to 100. So there's 200,000 people out of work and sent home. But that impacted the European economy. They came back. Yes, now they're looking for work, but there's no significant impact to our communities. You just got more people looking for work. You take 200,000 jobs out of Europe, they hated life. Yeah. So yeah, peace dividend. How many of those are staying in the area? And this is from a meeting we had with the mayor and his task force trying to figure out what's going on, what's wrong with this picture. 3 out of 5 are staying. Why, he asks? Affordable housing and a job that'll pay the bills. That's the hard part. Then you have other impacts, medical marijuana, recreational outlets for marijuana.
Washington too.
And they're coming in. They're coming in. Without jobs, without a place to live. Number swell. Okay? Next slide. Kind of services, and these are some of the buzzwords that they use. Supportive housing takes a housing first approach or housing first model. It says, regardless of your substance abuse issues, regardless of your disabilities, regardless of all that, we're going to put you in a house first. Then we'll deal with it. You know, it used to be we'd send our vets off and put them into their inpatient program and bring them back. Okay, now let's look for a place for you to live. And they'd get off the bus here in Colorado Springs and look around. It's like, what's changed? I may feel better about myself. I still have nowhere to go. No income, no family, no home, no vehicle. So we had to revert to the housing first model. And with that model, PSH is the biggest buzzword, permanent supportive housing. So if we're going to put them up, we need to address their issues. But as a housing provider, this is the tough part. As a provider, we're forced to provide those services. As a resident, participation is optional. Really? Yeah. We've got to step up and pay for all that, but optional for them. But it's still, that's the model.
Did you say that regardless of their substance abuse, they'll provide housing?
Housing first.
Is that true?
That's a national program. I got it from the governor's office many, many times. Housing first model. Yeah, I see Ernie nodding. That's right. You know, that's, yeah. And then try and fix them. Okay, get those needs met. Services needed. Yeah, got to get the VA involved. Got to get them in a vicinity, or get them to transportation, or get the coordination to get the caseworkers where they are. Okay. Case management. and this will come up in another slide, but yeah, if you're gonna put somebody into that kind of a housing situation, there's gotta be case management. Okay, now that's the person, depending on the type of housing, that can enforce those services, but we'll come back to that. You know, the mental health, substance, whatever they need. But also that support for employment, and a lot of these guys are needing assistance with their disabilities. They have never applied. They may be qualified, they may have benefits due, they don't know because they never tried. Okay. In our Crawford House, we've got 3 programs. There's the homeless program, there's the substance abuse program, and there's the disability track. So individual, case by case, we assess the need, we develop a program for that. If they're successful, they get a job, we can move them into transitional housing for up to 24 months. That's a critical time period. It seldom goes past 24 months anyway. So, next slide. Here's a big one, housing barriers. Again, another buzzword that they like to use. What are the barriers involved with this veteran we're trying to help? Okay, affordable housing, we mentioned that. The skills gap is huge. Fort Carson is an infantry base. And you're putting guys on the street, I mean, come on. What are their transferable skills?
Shoot you from 500 yards.
Yeah. I can lay down pretty good suppressive fire.
I can hide well.
Yeah, but which explains why they're at the poverty level. They can't find meaningful employment beyond minimum wage. Okay. Yeah, the substance abuse, we talked about post-traumatic stress. In my area and in many of yours, government services are pretty much maxed out. I mean, they expanded our clinic. They promised 6 more complete medical care teams. Then budget got cut, so we've got empty offices in our clinic. We're at capacity, we're maxed. Okay. The post-reintegration, a lot of issues there. Most of that is pretty self-explanatory. You know, the isolation. I mean, just read through our veteran Bible. It spells them all out. You know, the high divorce rate, the substance abuse and self-medication. Yeah. The mental health issues, as well as the physical issues, gets back to, you know, will they qualify for disabilities? And unfortunately, in the civil sector, we try to open or expand the window as much as we can, so regardless of your nature of discharge, will help. VA is not so accommodating. Okay? Other than honorable? Dishonorable? No. Sorry, can't help. Find a civil agency that can help you. Okay? They come back with, they don't have much for social networks. You can't build up a lot. Unemployment. You got a family, you know, they get out, where they go, back to family. It's not a healthy environment to step into. And this last one, disintegration of the family, nuclear structure. What we saw after the Vietnam War and those who were separated was a period of about 2 years, which went from separation to complete destitution. 2 years. You know what we're seeing now? Less than 6 months. Why? They didn't have a strong family to go back to. You come back now, mom's in one state, dad's in another, brother's in another. You know, I was talking to a young guy, he's in his early 20s at the Crawford House. Everybody's got a story. I love to hear their stories. You know, what brought you here? Where you served? Where are you from? And I say, well, you know, I was doing all right. You know, I did my 3 years. I did my tours. I did 2 tours. And I was living with my brother. He's at Fort Carson still, or at least he was. He deployed. I still haven't found a job. Nope. Could not make the cost of the apartment. coming out of his car until we got him into a program. Common story. Divorce, DUIs, the kind of things that will disrupt the stability in your life. Yeah. Post-reintegration issues. No strong family structures like we used to see. All right, there's a lot of think tanks out there trying to figure out how do we address this. And fortunately, both civil sector, community level, as well as government, HUD, VA. You may be familiar with some of these terms. HUD VASH, Housing and Urban Development, your VA supportive housing, that's VASH, okay, in the form of vouchers. Now the distinction I want to draw here is that generally when a HUD VASH voucher is issued, it's issued to the individual. The individual finds a place, he can use that voucher. It pays at a level equal to Section 8 housing vouchers for non-military. Whatever the cost of rent is, if they get $600 on their voucher, rent's $900, they pay the difference. What I'm advocating for here is project-based vouchers. Okay? If you put up a supportive housing network, 50-plex, 20-plex, whatever it is, and get HUD VASH to provide, and in our state, city or state level will match the number of vouchers that HUD VASH can provide. So if you got a 20-plex and you got a mix of HUD VASH and state vouchers, you can put up 20 people. But the vouchers stay with the project. They stay with that house. The guy screws up, violates the conditions of living there, he's out. Voucher doesn't go with him. Now you bring somebody else in off your waiting list. Project-based vouchers. We need more of those, okay? SSVF, Supportive Services for Veteran Families. So you're familiar with this term. They've got quite a few vouchers out there. That's as of first quarter 2016, there's 78,000 vouchers out there. Was a meeting with a representative from all the veteran service organizations in town. VFW, American Legion, AMVETS, GAV, okay, Retired Enlisted Association, Retired Officers Association, and pretty much everybody came to the table with about $1,500 to get us going. That's what it takes. Okay? We rented a house, then we bought, then we bought, then we bought, then we bought, then we bought. So it expanded. A good example, St. Michael's Veteran Community is in Kansas City, Missouri. 2 years ago, they opened their phase 1. Somebody donated 22 acres adjacent to the VA hospital. Now, that area, Kansas City, Missouri, had about 1,500 homeless. And again, about 20% of those are veterans. So they opened up a 60-plex. And through various grants and such, they're just about to get their second phase open, another 60-plex. And then another 60-plex. They didn't have a problem with transportation. They were adjacent to the VA hospital, walking distance, short shuttle bus for disabled vets. A very good success story. Also in that area is a new initiative they call Veteran Housing Program. It's a tiny house community, okay, 240 square feet. They will open their first one next month. Pick up a copy of the VFW this month. Got a great story about it. Cover story. They're not the only ones doing this. Okay? Tiny houses is a cheap way to go. $10,000 to $15,000, and they got a home of their own. Okay? 1 bedroom. You can reach out and touch your living room and your kitchen. in your bathroom. But hey, it's better than a street. It's better than a bridge. They like it. The guys are willing to come in. We have a tiny homes initiative in our area. We don't have a first one occupied yet, but we're working on it. You know, there's another initiative in New Orleans. New Orleans has been through some hard times. New Orleans has not had a VA hospital since Katrina took it out 12 years ago. But they've got the money and they're in the process of rebuilding. And they've also got a veteran community with 14 units now operational. Theirs is a unique approach. They've got 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms. Why? Because they want to create community, families. The best thing is having kids around. I mean, you really want to get back to your roots, be around family. They have a very good philosophy that says it doesn't matter, or you should not be shaped by the last thing that happened to you. Okay, so you had 10 years in the service, you've done 3 deployments, but the last thing that happened to you, you got a DUI. You got kicked out. You're out. It's like the video that catch you. Great video. But that's their philosophy. Don't let that shape you. You still took an oath like every one of us did. Be proud of that. Move on. We'll help. That's New Orleans.